Hi, I'm Andy Parr, and you're watching The Gadget Guru. In a moment, we're going to check out a new dash cam, and one that's a little different than most of them on the market. This is Vantrue's new N2. And what makes it different? Well, it has two lenses, one on the front and one on the back. And that means that you can record video both in the front and in the rear simultaneously. And we're going to check it out. And that starts right now on The Gadget Guru. Okay, if you've seen any of my unboxing videos before, you know I don't like these long drawn-out unboxings. It's a box. There's a product in here. Here, let's take a look. Okay, when you open up, you have a little thank you in here. And in there, it's just a little basic nomenclature. It's just a quick reference guide of what each button does. Has your warranty card. I bought it from Amazon. If I have a problem, it's going back there. By the way, if you want a link to it, here's a link below. I'll tell you up front the price is $190. Okay, on the instruction book, look, it looks like a real thick instruction book, but it's really not. It's in a lot of languages. There's 17 pages in there. It's about 4 minutes of reading. Now, let's get to the unit itself. As you pop it out, you know, at first glance, this thing is different from other dash cams, so let's give it a look here. On the front, you have a lens. Now, this shoots HD video. I believe it's up to 1080p. Now, you go to the back. The first thing you notice, it has an LCD display. Granted, I haven't powered it on yet. We'll get to that in a minute. You also have this rear lens. Now, here's how this thing is designed to work. Let's go and open up. I'll get another part so I can show you. You know, it's like any other dash cam. If you've never used a dash cam, the basic concept is just like you see in all those videos that come from Europe and Russia or whatever. You put these things in your windshield. And this way, you have it set up where the video's constantly running. So if somebody hits you or you see an accident, whatever, it's preserved right here on your SD card. Now, this is the suction cup mount. Now, I've noticed immediately what's a little different from this is that it also has a power port in it. So if you take its USB cord, you can plug it in to get power from your cigarette lighter from either this port that's built in here or this port here. I guess the reason is this way, if it's wired into here and you want to do a quick removal, you can without having to unwire it, without having to pop out, you know, the connector. Now, on its 12-volt adapter has the long cable, so you could string this one around the window if you wanted to do a permanent mount or something like that. It does not come with a wire if you wanted to connect it into a fuse box. I'm sure you can get that elsewhere. Now, on the 12-volt adapter, this is cute. It swings open, so if you only have one 12-volt adapter in your car and you plug this in, it still gives you a port for your phone or whatever, MP3 player, whatever you want to plug in there. But that's just kind of a nice design on there. The cord, it's long enough, I believe it's around 10 feet. Now let me tell you the concept of how most dash cams work, and this one included. It uses a concept called looping. Now, if you've owned a GoPro, you probably already know what looping is. In case you don't, I'll try to give you the abbreviated description. What looping does, now remember when you're recording and you're using an SD card, if it's recording constantly, at some point you're going to run out of space. Well, looping allows you to set up a designated amount of time that it's going to record, and then it will stop recording and start a new file. Now, all that's done instantly. So if you have two files and you're editing, you lay them down back to front, it's going to go through as if they were one file. So on this one, you can set it up, I believe the time is either 1, 3, 5, or 10 minutes. So that means if you set it up for 3 minutes, it will record for 3 minutes, then automatically stop and start a new file. Now, let me tell you why that's important. You know, it's kind of like an inventory system. You know, if you have a big warehouse, you want to get rid of the stuff that's the oldest first, and then you want to get new stuff, and it's just a way to keep the inventory balanced. That's what looping does. So while it's recording, and we're going to use the example of 3 minutes again, you get these 3-minute intervals. And then when you get toward the end of the card's capacity, it's going to go back to the beginning and then delete that file so you can start a new file. And it just keeps going over and over that way. Now, let me tell you one thing that attracted me to this camera and why I decided to go in and buy it, is it has this button right back here. So let's say you're driving around And now, granted, if you get into an accident, it feels a force, it will automatically lock that file so it won't accidentally get deleted, unless you go and delete it manually when you get it onto the computer or here on the screen later. But it has this button right here, which they call an emergency button. So if you see some crazy driver in front of you just doing something stupid, and you want to take that and put it on YouTube, you hit that button, and what that does is lock the file while continuing to record. Now, granted, it has this front camera and the rear camera, and from the examples I've seen, you know, could you use this rear camera to monitor what's going out through the rear window? Well, that's going to depend on your lighting conditions. And again, we're going to give this thing a trial run in just a little bit. Basically, what this thing is good for, and what I would use it for, if you've seen some of my videos, I do interviews in motorhomes when somebody's driving and, you know, there's two of us up there. You could essentially use this, stick this on the window, get your scene in front of you, and use this to get the two passengers. Or if you have a child or pet in the back or something like that, you know, it's a good application. We're going to go in and take this out to the car. We're going to drive around with it. We're going to play with it a bit. So that's the end of this part of the video. Let's go outside to the car and let's see how this puppy performs. Okay, suction cup has a little lever here. So I'm just going to put this on, stick this on, and you notice it has this little pivot point here where you can move this around. Now I think, oops, before we do that, I forgot to remove the film off the front of the lens. If you're getting a foggy image, it's probably because you forgot to do the same. And I'll remove the film off the rear of the LCD. We're just going to attach it on here. Now, let's go in and fire her up. Here's that long cable that I showed you earlier. And I'll go in and connect this just directly into the camera and then into my 12-volt outlet in the car. Okay, let me point out one important factor. This unit does not include a micro SD card. Now, they say that you can use up to a 64 gigabyte card, but if you do, make sure that you format it in your computer first to FAT32. Or they said it's just probably easier that they're recommending this card right here, the Samsung 32 EVO, and this is a 32 gigabyte card. So this is a fresh one up here. Give me a minute, I'll put it in. I'll edit this out. Okay, the SD card goes in under one of these rubber stoppers. And there we go. We open it up there, pops right in there. Okay, let's go in and get her fired back up. So, let's go in there. Now, the default settings on this, 1080p on the front, 720p. Now, they have a little picture-in-picture. I'm going to try to zoom in on that to see if you can see that. Now, this is the angle that you can use. And I'm going to try to get it set up here where we can attempt to see a little bit out of the rear here. Press M for menu, the record setup. Okay. The recording mode. Okay. We have the dual cam recording going on. Okay, let's go down to loop recording. Okay, the loop recording is set at 5 minutes. That's okay. So let's go in and get out of the menu. And let's check her out and see how she does. Now, the other thing that we want to check that I haven't seen on too many videos is how is the audio on this? Okay, so let's check out the microphone. You know, I'm here in the car. As you can tell, there's nobody here beside me. I have two cameras running. The camera that we're looking at the front is 170 degrees. So if you think about it, 180 degrees is that far. Oops, hands on the wheel. 170 degrees, just a little bit shorter. Now, the one facing me, which is this one right here, is 140 degrees. Now, if I change this over to where I'm only recording one camera. For example, if I'm only recording the front camera, we're going to be shooting at 1920 by 1080, standard HD. However, when we're recording two, the file size is a little bit different. Now, one thing that I noticed after playing with some footage on here, that everything I told you in the opening is true, that both the front and the rear camera records in separate files, and they're matched up together. They synchronize very easily in any editing program. However, you're recording in .mov or movie files. Now, if you're used to using some programs, for example, I use Final Cut Pro X. These files need to be converted, or either that or I just don't have the right plug-in for it. But once they're converted over, and I use, I think, a program called Smart Converter, it was no problem whatsoever. Anyway, let's just kick back. Now, I haven't shot any nighttime footage yet. Let's just kick back. I'll play some music, and I'll show you around my area of South Florida. Okay, we now have this attached to a 2016 or 17?
2016.
A 2016 Tesla X. You know, that's the one with the rear doors go up like little bat wings or something. Here with me is my friend Chris. And by the way, if you're looking for real estate in the South Florida area, what's the name of your website?
Tomasi Realty. We're with Illustrated Properties, and we cover all of South Florida.
Okay, I'm going to put a web link right here on the screen. So, and we're looking at properties out in the country. Most people don't realize you have country areas in South Florida.
Yes, we do.
Okay, now at the same time, she knows we're testing this camera. We're testing this for two reasons. Forward, we're getting an HD image. Now, it's a different kind of HD. Let me go and tell you what it is. I had to look at my notes here. The front, when you're on the dual mode, they're calling it 1080p, but it's 1440 by 1080. The rear, here, you can wave to the camera. The rear, which is right over here, is 1280 by 720. And they're saying that both are 30 frames per second, I believe. Now, when it's only in front mode, and we'll switch to a mode of the front mode right now. The front mode only, and that means this camera right here will be turned off. Then that will run at 1920 by 1080, 30 frames per second, or you can set it to a 720. Hey, look up in front of us. We told you we're out in the country here. See, this is a dash cam. We're supposed to be able to get license plates, but this guy doesn't have a license plate. And just so you know, the mode that we're in right now, the front view should be giving us a 170-degree view. Now, this is kind of interesting being in this car because this has huge windows. You know, these windows are, I'll insert a picture of them here, you know, are huge. So you have a lot of different places where you can put this camera. But you got 170 degrees, you know, on the front camera. And I believe it's 140 looking back at us. Now, I know some people are saying that this is good, like if you have Uber or Lyft or if you're a taxi cab, because you can monitor the passengers. Okay. Now, she speaks a lot fainter than I do. Why don't you talk for them? We'll see how the microphone picks you up.
I'm hoping that you can hear me because I do talk very quiet, so I want to make sure that you can hear exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, that's a good test of this. Okay, Chris is probably getting tired of hearing me talking to myself while we're driving around. So let's go back to the studio for the wrap-up of the Vantrue N2 dash cam. Okay, I can sum up my review by simply stating this is a pretty cool little product. Is it the best dash cam in the world? No. Well, at its price, it's pretty affordable considering that you have two. Here, I'll move over to this camera. You have the front and the rear camera. Now, the LCD display on this is a little small, but considering that this is going to be kind of like a Ron Popeil type of product, you're just going to set it and forget it, and hopefully it's going to be recording when you need to. You know, it's not a bad deal whatsoever. Now, let me go through some of the negatives. Like many of the dash cams on the market today, this thing records in the .mov format. Now, I have to, just because the programs I use, like for example, this video is being edited on Apple Final Cut Pro X, I need to convert it over to MP4. Now, there might be plugs in to do it for me automatically. I have different programs that I use. I believe I use Smart Converter on this one to do it. It was fairly painless. It's just another step into taking the video out if you're going to use it for editing. And by the way, if you're going to wait for that YouTube moment when you see some crazy driver driving out in front of you, you know, it is good to take a minute to edit your videos, because nobody wants to sit through 4 minutes of videos to see 5 seconds of action. Now, I say that as I do long-winded videos. Now, this thing does have a built-in battery. It is not accessible. It is not changeable. I tried to run just a quick test on it just to see how long it would run on batteries, and I was getting around 20 minutes on it. Also, while it's not featured, it does have a time-lapse feature. Now, the time-lapse feature is designed to be used in the parking mode. This way, if you're going to be parking, and it is connected, where it does have a power source, that you come up and you press, you know, this indicator right here, you know, the P indicator, you press and hold it for a few seconds, and it goes into whatever you set up to be. It could set up to where it's going to get motion. So if there's motion out front of your car, if somebody hits you in a parking lot, that file will be recorded, and it will be locked on here. It also has, you know, the G-Shock, so if you get into an accident, you know, those files will be recorded on here. You know, the one feature that I really liked about this one is that if you are driving along and you see some crazy guy driving like this in front of you, that you can just press this button and it locks the files. Now remember, we already went into earlier in this segment of how looping works on here. I'm trying to think. That's pretty much it on this. You know, again, I have more camera reviews coming up, and I'm going to pick up some more dash cams and check them out. So questions, comments, and opinions, just leave them right down here. If you want to be notified of my new posts, just go to facebook.com/thegadgetguru and like us. And remember, every time I do a video, I have the companion story, and that's posted on gadgetguru.com. Don't forget to subscribe right here. That's it for now. I'm the Gadget Guru, Andy Parr.